This is the Tuesday edition of the news in English on Rwanda Television with me, Serge Hori. As always, we'll begin with the headlines. The Chamber of Deputies in Rwanda's parliament has urged institutions responsible for the agricultural sector to address challenges such as substandard seeds and lack of markets, which continue to hinder development. The delegation from the Sierra Leonean Female Parliamentary Caucus, currently on a 3-day visit here in Rwanda, has engaged in discussions with the country's Parliamentary Standing Committee on Governance and Gender. And on the international scene, as the COP29 Climate Summit enters its final stretch in Azerbaijan, there are growing frustrations over the apparent lack of progress towards securing a deal on climate finance, seen as a crucial step in reducing emissions and limiting global warming.
Bolivia's delegate
Now the details. I'll be sitting in for Martina Avera. The Chamber of Deputies has urged institutions responsible for agriculture and livestock to address challenges such as substandard seeds and a lack of markets that continue to hinder the sector's development. During this 2025A farming season, farmers prepared their land and fertilizers, but delays in rainfall disrupted the planting schedule, raising concerns over potential yield shortages for certain crops. The deputies conducted field visits across the country to assess the preparation and implementation of the 2025A farming season. The Vice President of the Chamber of Deputies, Honorable Belin Wineza, presented a report to the plenary session highlighting several issues that could negatively affect agriculture and livestock output. The deputies called on relevant institutions to address critical challenges that include unstable prices, crop damage caused by wildlife, substandard seeds, and issues with agricultural insurance. The plenary session resolved that various parliamentary committees should investigate these issues further. Additionally, specific matters were assigned to ministries, including the Ministry of Agriculture and Animal Resources, the Ministry of Local Government, and the Ministry of Trade and Industry. These ministries are tasked with addressing key concerns such as why locally produced rice is more expensive than imported rice, strategies for harvesting rainfall from rooftops, and resolving issues with contractors who fail to pay farmers for their produce on time. Now, as we noted in the headlines, a delegation from the Sierra Leone Female Parliamentary Caucus, currently on a 3-day visit here in Rwanda, has engaged in discussions with Rwanda's Parliamentary Committee on Governance Affairs and Gender. The dialogue focused on Rwanda's journey in advancing gender equality across all sectors, a key factor in the nation's development and progress.
What I've seen is that they have chosen Rwanda because of appreciating the journey we have done so far. We recognize that though we have made long steps, we still have a journey to do. But what is good is to realize that only Rwandans have finally realized that the gender equality and equity are dimensions that must be strengthened and observed throughout the whole life of the Rwandans. And women engagement, youth engagement, both girls and boys, is very important. Women and men respect, self-respect, and contribution to the family and growth and development will never be realized wherever rights of the woman or the girl or the son, the boys, will not be respected. So what we have learned as members of the Parliament of Rwanda, and especially members of the permanent standing committee on governance and gender affairs, is that we have to keep up strengthening gender equality and mainstreaming within our laws, that we have to, while exercising our role of oversight, verifying whether all public institutions are irrespective of those principles and fulfill what they do have as obligations in these regards.
The head of the Sierra Leonean delegation highlighted that discussions provided valuable insights, particularly on advancing gender equality and enhancing laws to support its implementation.
allocation of 30% quota is not just relevant, but it's more important to have this allocation in decision-making positions. So that is one of the key things, and the policies that they have used to ensure that this gender advancement becomes a continuity and sustainable. So for me, the discussions that we are taking is how we can not just have gender advancements and positions be occupied in the 30% quota, but how we can sustain them using policies and laws as a country.
Now let us move on to other matters. Economic experts suggest that Rwanda should intensify measures to boost domestic production as a way of addressing the depreciation of the Rwandan franc in foreign exchange markets. This recommendation comes as the National Bank of Rwanda presented its 2023-2024 annual report to Parliament, revealing that the Rwandan franc depreciated by as much as 16.3% against the US dollar during the fiscal year. In Kigali, money exchange businesses have noted the unprecedented fluctuations. Members of Parliament have called for enhanced collaboration between Benin and other government institutions responsible for managing the currency's stability to prevent further depreciation. Experts from the Economic Policy Research Network argue that the long-term solution lies in increasing domestic production, particularly in agriculture and manufacturing. This approach would reduce reliance on imports and strengthen the local economy. Benin also highlighted that in 2023, the Rwandan franc had depreciated by as much as 18%. For this year of 2024, projections show a depreciation rate of at least 9%. The trends underline the need for sustainable solutions to stabilize the currency and improve economic resilience. Staying with financial matters, the Institute of Certified Public Accountants of Rwanda, that is ICPAR, and the Association of Microfinance Institutions in Rwanda have signed an agreement aimed at professionalizing accountancy in microfinance institutions. We have the details on that.
The pieces of training are aimed at increasing professionalism and effectiveness in microfinance institutions. Jackson Kwikiriza, the Executive Director of the Association of Microfinance Institutions in Rwanda, demonstrates that they usually train their workers but never attained the goal, hence expecting more after these agreements.
We have been doing this for quite a number of years, but it has not been showing significant change in terms of service delivery. So what we're going to do here is to partner with ECPAR and give professional trainings, that is CAT and SCCA, those programs. So those programs are going to help the managers, loan officers, cashiers, and the internal auditors to give professional services as they reach out to their clients. Before we signed this MOU, we had a quick statistics. We made a quick survey and realized that we have not more than 10 certified professionals in the microfinance sector. This is sector serving more than 6 million clients. And we have over 460 institutions that we support. So that is, of course, a disadvantage to us. So we are looking forward to strengthening and working with ICPAR to ensure we provide professional courses and certification programs for the entire microfinance sector.
The Chief Executive Officer of ICPAR, Amin Miramago, states that in recent years, microfinance institutions have been experiencing losses that often resulted from insufficient skills. So training employees in this field is beneficial for the country's economy.
Why we decided to work with Amir is that Amir is an integral part of the financial sector of this country. And we know that the microfinance sector, it contributes quite a very significant chunk of the whole sector. And as such, of course, they also have issues of capacity because they're not like the banks. The banks are big boys. They can take care of themselves. They have the money, they have everything they want, they can easily get it. But the micro finance institutions and the SACCOs, they really struggle because they have so many needs and the resources are not enough. So you find that in most cases when an institution is operating in that kind of a framework, they don't really prioritize capacity development. So that's why there's a big emphasis for us to be able to build capacity.
Currently, The Association of Microfinance Institutions in Rwanda has 450 active members, serving 6 million people nationwide.
Prince Manzi with that report. Again, staying with the financial sector, the central bank is in the process of consolidating sector-based savings and credit cooperatives at the district level. This reform aims to address challenges faced by SACCO members, such as delays in accessing loans and high interest rates that sometimes exceed 20%. Additionally, members often struggle with unavailability of funds in some SACCOs, while others have surplus funds that are not shared properly. The integration is expected to alleviate such issues by enabling better resource distribution at the district level. Financial experts have highlighted that this initiative will bridge gaps in financial inclusion, potentially increasing access to credit beyond the current 24% of the population served by financial institutions.
There will be more financial inclusion because now clients can trust the system, can trust the security of the system as well as the efficiency and that better customer experience. So that will also lead to maybe reduction of rates and more inclusion in terms of services rendered by the financial service providers, including these deposit-taking financial institutions like SACCOs. It will be easier now and more efficient for the regulator to control and monitor and supervise and regulate these SACCOs, because they can monitor, for example, capital adequacy requirements, liquidity requirements, and all those other legal and regulatory requirements, because they will now be monitoring the system. Even when it comes to the supervision of the central bank, it will not require on-site supervision very often. It can do that, yes, but most of the time it will be easy for the central bank to receive reports, because reports can be generated from the systems.
Benin's Governor John Rwangomga has confirmed that the pilot phase of this consolidation is currently underway in Kigali. Lessons learned will guide the nationwide rollout of all SACCOs, expected to be unified by June next year. Rwanda's financial sector is comprised of 688 institutions, them being 11 banks, accounting for 65% of the financial sector, and 458 SACCOs, 416 of which are sector-based. This integration is anticipated to enhance efficiency, streamline operations, and improve financial services for SACCO members nationwide. Now, Airtel Rwanda has announced its groundbreaking achievement as the first telecom operator in the country to launch voice-over 4G services, alongside the successful completion of a 100% nationwide 4G network upgrade, as the managing director of Airtel Rwanda told us earlier.
Today I was very proud to welcome Min ICT and to welcome RURA to celebrate that we have opened the voice over LTE service 1 week ago. So this may appear a little bit enigmatic. Is voice over LTE, what is voice over 4G? This is just the fact that before, when you were making call with your smartphone, you will still using the old technology, and the call sometimes drops, so you did not have the better experience. Now with this technology, I can guarantee the customers they will have high definition call, very quick call setup, and they will have a quality which is a little bit, if I can compare, like a WhatsApp call. So it's like the quality of a WhatsApp call for normal call. So this is very important for us, and we are the first in Rwanda to offer this service. This is very important because here the message is Airtel is here, we are here, and we are leading the market. So it's very important. Number two is the advantage of this technology. It makes the cost of the voice very marginal because it is included in all the data. Data is streaming, it is pay TV, it is gaming, it is social network, and the voice is not just a collateral service. So we embed the voice call in this service, and this is the reason why we are also the first operator to propose unlimited call in its bundle. We have started this already 1 year ago, so for 3,000 francs you can enjoy 1 gigabyte per day, and embedded in this 1 gigabyte you can call with no limit, no per second billing, no per minute billing, no per hour. It's just unlimited. And this is a big message. And why we are able to do that is because we have launched this technology. So I'm very proud to have announced this today and to have the Min ICT and the RURA to witness this big launch. And now we are going to make noise, and we really want the Rwandan and Kigali people, even the VIP, to know that we are here to deliver them the best service in Rwanda.
Now, staying with health matters, that is, here in Rwanda and beyond on the continent, medical experts are emphasizing that for the African Union to achieve its goal of producing 60% of the continent's vaccines, by 2040, it will require strong collaboration among member states. Currently, Africa produces less than 1% of its vaccines, highlighting the urgent need for ongoing efforts to boost local manufacturing. Olive Nete with the details.
Vaccines are a cornerstone of public health, saving millions of lives every year. Yet Africa, the world's second largest continent, is home to only 1% of global vaccine production. Professor Leon Mutesa, director of the Center for Human Genetics at the University of Rwanda and a leading expert in immunization and vaccine research, highlights the persistent challenge Africa faces in achieving vaccine self-sufficiency.
We have seen many challenges in Africa, which are just being stratified in different steps that I mentioned. For example, you can just design a mRNA vaccine in this facility and then fail just to test your vaccine in animal models. That means you need animal model facilities where you can test the tolerability, efficacy, and safety of the vaccine. And once it is successful, you jump to the humans. You go through different steps, phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, phase 4. And then this will require the capacity in terms of human skills, but also clinical trial site with the different requirements, international standards to be able just to conduct this assignment.
Africa currently has fewer than 10 vaccine manufacturing facilities, most of which are limited to downstream activities such as packaging, labeling, and occasional fill and finish processes, while the actual vaccine production occurs outside the continent. The African Union, through its partnerships for African vaccine manufacturing, has set an ambitious target to achieve 60% vaccine self-sufficiency by 2040. In response to the challenges exposed by the COVID-19 pandemic, some African countries have taken proactive steps toward this goal. Notably, construction began in Rwanda on BioNTech pharmaceutical and vaccine manufacturing plant, marking a significant milestone in addressing the continent's vaccine production needs. During an official visit to Rwanda, Dr. Tedros Adhanom, Director General of the World Health Organization, emphasized that the BioNTech vaccine manufacturing plant under construction will serve as a crucial solution for Africa's vaccine needs.
And I hope it will be more competitive. Not only vaccine production, it will also create jobs. It will contribute to the economy. By the way, we should not see it as part of just producing vaccines only. It also brings opportunities, economic opportunities, creates jobs and improves the economy. So we should see that. And the commitment from the government to produce vaccines, from my exchanges, including with the president and minister, is exactly that. It's as part of the economic development. It's not just producing vaccines for the case of producing vaccines or just only to address the equity issue. It's more than that. And I'm glad it's, that's the basic principle. And I hope this will contribute to vaccine equity in the future, but we have other initiatives as well.
Medical experts stress that achieving vaccine self-sufficiency in Africa will require significant efforts, including strengthened collaboration among African nations and robust international partnerships. Professor Leon Mutesa underscores the importance of such cooperation in advancing this goal.
In this context, what I would just recommend in this context again is just to have this common partnership like a PAVM partnership, which has been initiated by African Union countries to work together. Because no one will be safe if we are not safe. In this context, for example, we need a very sustainable funding or regular funding going just to support R&D, first, research and development, those who can just think about how we can design a very good vaccine model, and then sustainable funding to support the GMP facility. GMP, these are good manufacturing practice or the vaccine plant to be established. Having one facility here in Rwanda, for example, it won't be enough. Maybe we need other more, and also outside Rwanda. And number 3, human capacity building is a key. In this context, having some funding just to support some academic institutions, some training institutions, to support the ecosystem for this program. And lastly, having a regular funding to support the infrastructure and equipment. It's not just good only to purchase equipment if you are not going to be able to maintain this equipment. So we should have this program also being supporting this process.
Rwanda remains committed to strengthening preparedness and surveillance systems. Hassan Siwoma, another director of vaccination programs at the Rwanda Biomedical Center, highlights the critical role of vaccines in controlling and preventing epidemics. He also notes some of the measures being taken by the government of Rwanda to ensure vaccination coverage around the country.
We are always prepared. So actually we can't have all vaccines at once in the country. So we are always keeping vaccine based on the epidemiology. So which disease actually can emerge, which infections actually are likely to happen in our country. So that is why we are always focusing on routine vaccines, because actually we know that those outbreaks in children are very deadly. But for new emerging infections, so we always have a framework of actually acquiring vaccines whenever they are needed. So that is why actually if you look at the vaccination program, so we are not working alone. We are always together with UNICEF, with WHO, so that it can be easier also to access vaccines we don't have in the country. Because if I can give the example, there is some vaccines actually can have here in the country. So let us take the example of meningitis. So we know that actually there is some countries actually vaccinating against meningitis in their routine vaccination. But here, we don't vaccinate all meningitis types. So for us, we are only providing Haemophilus influenza vaccine and also pneumococcal vaccine. So those are vaccines which can also protect against meningitis. But there is other types of meningitis in which we are not vaccinating here, because actually we don't have that burden. We don't have actually those cases.
Rwanda has also prioritized building capacity to ensure the proper storage of vaccines, preventing damage and ensuring their effectiveness. According to the data from the Rwanda Biomedical Center, around 370,000 children are born annually in the country, each requiring at least 6 vaccinations. This results in an annual cost between $10 million and $12 million. Additionally, the Africa CDC estimates that Africa needs approximately $50 billion per year to import the medicines and vaccines it requires, given the continent imports 99% of its vaccines. This figure includes operational costs to support procurement, distribution, and the development of local manufacturing capacity. Olive Nete, RTV News.
We now move on to international news. This week marks 1,000 days of fighting in Ukraine. The mounting death toll, the air raid sirens and explosions have been a grim reality for millions of Ukrainians, including a 32-year-old Kiev resident and his loved ones. We have the details with VOA.
Happy birthday, Ivanka. Happy birthday to you.
On February 21, 2022, Oleg Reshetnyak, a correspondent for national Ukrainian television, and his pregnant wife Anna celebrated their daughter's Ivana's third birthday in their home in Kyiv. That evening, Russian President Vladimir Putin recognized the self-proclaimed People's Republics of Donetsk and Luhansk.
Oleg and his father were glued to the TV, while my mom and I said, "Come on, guys, maybe it's time for champagne. It's a child's birthday. Enough with TV." But they replied, "This is very important. We need to hear what's happening."
3 days later, on February 24, 2022, Putin announced Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Heavily pregnant Anna Reshetnyak and the couple's 3-year-old left Ukraine, as Oleg Reshetnyak stayed behind. In April 2022, in Denmark, Anna gave birth to their second daughter, Victoria. Reshetnyak was still in Ukraine.
Tanks at their positions are camouflaged, and yet you can still hear the explosions.
In the summer of 2023, Anna returned to Kyiv with the couple's 2 daughters. Oleg Reshetnyak invested the family's savings into a photo studio despite the ongoing war. In August 2024, the couple welcomed their 3rd daughter and watched as their 2-year-old adapted to life during wartime.
From an outside perspective, it seems wild. A 2-year-old knows what an air raid siren is and what an all-clear signal means. When the alarm goes off, she runs, shouting, "Mom, Mom, alarm, alarm!" I tell her, "Don't worry, everything's fine."
According to UN estimates, more than 12,000 Ukrainian civilians have died and nearly 27,000 have been injured since the start of Russia's invasion. Yet experts say the Ukrainians' determination to resist Russian attacks remains at the same level as in 2022.
About 2/3 of people are still ready to continue fighting. They remain resilient, between 60 and 70%. The rest, about 1/3, are not necessarily willing to surrender to Russia, but are in favor of seeking solutions, including concessions by Ukraine, what they call reasonable compromises.
The Ukrainian Institute of Sociology has been studying the resilience of the country's population.
When we ask how important the existence of a free, independent Ukraine is, 93% say it is absolutely essential. Only a few percent say they're unsure or say it's not that important.
Reshetnyak is a historian by training, and he worries that the world, especially the incoming Trump administration, might abandon military aid to Ukraine, and that the conflict could expand like the conflicts of the past.
If the United States just ignores what's happening here, it will lead to major problems in the world.
By Ukrainian law, Reshetnyak, a father of 3, doesn't have to fight on the front lines. He remains in Kyiv supporting fighters with donations, as well as urging bloggers to raise awareness that the brutal war is still going on. Anna Kostyuchenko for VOA News, Kyiv, Ukraine.
As the COP29 climate summit enters its final stretch in Azerbaijan, there are growing frustrations over the apparent lack of progress towards securing a deal on climate finance, seen as a crucial step in reducing emissions and limiting global warming. VOA once more.
Money is dominating the final days of the COP29 summit, or in COP terms, climate finance. Who will pay for poorer countries to adapt to climate change and to transition away from fossil fuels as their economies grow? Bolivia's delegate Diego Balanza, who chairs a negotiating bloc of developing nations, accused richer nations Tuesday of a decade of failed promises.
Our countries are suffering the impacts of climate change, due largely to the historical emissions of developed countries.
COP29 is meant to set a new funding target for climate finance. Estimates vary. Some put the cost at $1.3 trillion per year. The current target is $100 billion.
Climate finance is not charity. It is 100% in every nation's interest to protect their economies and people from rampant climate impacts.
A COP29 climate finance agreement is meant to unlock the crucial next stage of negotiations, allowing all nations to deliver action plans on reducing greenhouse gas emissions, with the goal of limiting global warming to 1.5 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial levels. On the current trajectory, scientists say we're heading for a likely catastrophic 2.7 degrees of warming. There is growing concern at the apparent lack of progress at COP29. Mohamed Adow is the director of the campaign group Power Shift Africa.
This has been one of the worst COPs, at least one of the worst first-week COP that I've attended in the last 15 years. There has been very limited progress on climate finance and even on the rules around carbon markets and how the world is going to cut emissions.
Adow fears the negotiations in Baku are being overshadowed.
Around the election of Donald Trump and what the Trump administration is going to do. So you have the rich world that is actually hiding behind Trump and not wanting to actually respond to the calls that we've had from the developing countries on the 1.3 trillion US dollars that they require for climate finance.
Mukhtar Babayev, Azerbaijan's COP29 president, has called on parties to move faster amid growing fears that the summit might fail to reach an agreement. Henry Ridgewell, VOA News.
That report brings us to the end of this edition, but before we go, let us again take a look at the headlines. The Chamber of Deputies here in Rwanda's parliament has urged institutions responsible for the agricultural sector to address challenges such as substandard seeds and lack of markets, which continue to hinder development. A delegation from the Sierra Leonean Female Parliamentary Caucus, currently on a 3-day visit in Rwanda, has engaged in discussions with the country's Parliamentary Standing Committee on Governance and Gender. And as we just saw, as the COP29 Climate Summit enters its final stretch in Azerbaijan, there are growing frustrations over the apparent lack of progress towards securing a deal on climate finance, seen as a crucial step in reducing emissions and limiting global warming. And that's it for the news. I'm glad you're able to join us. I'll be seeing you soon again. Goodbye.